kiri mu nnyumba genda okikube ekibobbo naawe ekikube kiikyo ekibobbo genda okikube kiri mu nnyumba ekibobbo genda okikube.
Welcome aboard Imagination Skyway, your grand podcast tour of the magic. I'm your host, Matthew Krull, and in today's episode, we're going to finish off the discussion that we started in our last podcast episode, all about Disney Vacation Club and helping you to decide if membership is right for you and your family. As I shared in part 1 and want to reiterate here in part 2, Disney Vacation Club is a very complex purchase that is really important for you to do your homework and make the decision that is right personally for your family. And in this episode, Brooke Philander and myself really break down some of the personal decisions and questions that we asked in deciding whether or not Disney Vacation Club is right for our families. But of course, no two families are the same. We share a little bit about some of the reasons why we became Disney Vacation Club members. And if you didn't listen to part 1, I encourage you to please go back and listen to part 1 to learn some really important information there. But in this part 2, we are going to sort of finish out this conversation discussing really what are just the basics of Disney Vacation Club membership. And if this is something that you want to consider further, I would encourage you to please do reach out to any of the three of us or go online and do some more research, join some member communities, do whatever you can to create and help make the most informed decision that you can for you and your family. But more than anything else, I really hope you enjoyed this discussion and hearing a little bit more about the thought process and why we became Disney Vacation Club members. At the end of the show, we'll return to Imagination Central, where I'll share some ways in which you can stay connected with Imagination Skyway, how you can continue to discuss this really big topic with other members of our listener community, and how you can help to support and inspire the future of the show. Please remain seated, keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times, and enjoy your grand circle tour aboard Imagination Skyway. Let's talk before we get to one more thing before we get to the buying process. We're talking about Disney Vacation Club membership, but I feel like there's important terminology here. You can own Disney Vacation Club without being a member because there are other routes to go. Technically, this has changed over time, and depending on when you're listening to this episode, could have already changed. But there is a minimum amount of points required to be officially considered a Disney Vacation Club member. Currently, you have to buy that directly through Disney, and you have to buy 150 points. It doesn't matter which resort you buy, but it has to be 150 points directly through Disney Vacation Club. You can technically own Disney Vacation Club with less than that. You can go. There are contract options. People do sometimes just to kind of dip their toes in the water. They don't need to be considered a member. They don't mind. They just want to go a couple of times, maybe a few nights a year. They don't need 150 points. Maybe they can't afford it right now, but they just want to get started. Or they go the resale route. Those two options, you're not officially considered a member. You could still use your points at your home resorts. And we'll obviously have to talk a little bit more about the stipulations about resale versus owning directly. But, when we talk about becoming a Disney Vacation Club member, going directly through Disney, buying the 150 point minimum, let's talk a little bit about what that means. So Brooke, you've been a member for a while. What does it mean to actually be a Disney Vacation Club member, and what are some of the benefits that come with that?
Yes. So being a Disney Vacation Club member means that you are eligible for membership extras. That's kind of one of the big terms that you'll see a lot and in a lot of the fine print at when Disney announces opportunities for Disney Vacation Club members to do cool things, access unique spaces. So basically, a few of the core perks, I would call them. DVC members get discounts on a lot of things. There's it depends on whether you're at Walt Disney World or Disneyland. It varies by resort. But at Walt Disney World, currently the discount is 20% off of merchandise. There is a 10% discount at many, certainly by no means all dining locations. There are, you get a lot more dining discounts, actually, I would say, at Disneyland as a DVC member, but a lower merchandise discount. It's 10% there. So that's a big one. And that's immediate, money, making your money back in a few different places that you don't even necessarily factor into the initial cost. And then the unique spaces, there is a Disney Vacation Club member lounge at Epcot that is free to access. There is also one that just opened at Disneyland, which I think only Philander has been to so far. And he can maybe talk a little more about that. But these are spaces, again, free for members. You can bring a certain number of guests. I can't quite remember how many, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just your family. That's on the contract. There's free soft drinks, places to sit, charge your phone, air conditioning, nice place to take a break. At Walt Disney World, there's also Top of the World Lounge at Bay Lake Tower with amazing fireworks views. So those are, some of the unique spaces that you can only access as a member. And then things like member cruises. Disney Cruise Line offers member cruises. There is a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser member voyage happening this August. And I did a DVC member cruise to Alaska last year, and it was beyond incredible. It was like a mini D23 Expo on water. There were so many special guests. We got so many goodies. It was incredible. So the perks, there really are a lot of perks. And I think it would be a big shame to only at this point in time, now that they've really eliminated accessibility to perks for resale buyers. I really kind of recommend that anybody who wants to get in on it strongly consider buying direct to become a member first. And then if you still want more points, you could potentially add on with one of those resale contracts.
Yeah, Philander, how is that member lounge in Disneyland? I'm looking forward to checking it out when I next get out there.
They did such a fantastic job. It's very well themed, I think, was the thing that blew me away the most, because the one at Epcot is very nice and actually has a really great private space and has that really fun atrium style feeling. This one, because it's situated in Tomorrowland and Disneyland proper, they wanted it to feel like you are in a space station, in space. So they spent a lot of effort theming it, and I think for the first time they actually put stuff from the Walt Disney Archives on display inside, which is really fantastic. They truly didn't have to do that, but I'm very happy that they did. But it's great because Disneyland has definitely needed something of that for a long time and has always kind of been the little stepsister to Walt Disney World with so many more, offerings, hotels, properties and spaces to use your membership. So having that there is really great. And then another thing that added to all the great stuff that Brooke mentioned was the Moonlight Magic parties, which are so awesome, where they have private events for vacation members and their friends and family only. So that's great. Where imagine it's Epcot, but it's only filled with Disney Vacation Club members and their friends and family. So a private night in the park where everything entry is complimentary, all of the snacks and ice cream bars, and they have fun swag that they gave you. All that's complimentary. So imagine a 4 or 5 hour party with just members in the park, where everything has got short waits. That's always really great. They do quite a few of them throughout the year. I think there are 8 planned for this year, I believe. And it'll be a different park. So one could be California Adventure in California, or you have, Epcot or Hollywood Studios out in Florida. So all of these perks are great. And like Brooke mentioned, at this point in time, why would you not want to buy in that way to be able to access these things? Because that just creates more value for what you ended up spending, with all these discounts that were mentioned and the private spaces, which are incredibly useful, especially if it's like a hot or rainy day at either property. Getting to go to the parks, complimentary in a private space where it's 5 to 10 minute waits for everything. This is all really great added value. There's also a membership magazine that comes to your home. I believe it's quarterly, I think, that keeps you like abreast of all the different happenings around the membership community, which is really great. So yeah, it's really good as to why you'd want to buy direct, at least for your maybe potentially your initial contract, or for people that choose to buy resale, which I know we'll get into, to have at least one of your contracts be, from Disney, so that you can get all of these really great extra things.
The one thing
Just
I'll add,
piggybacking a little bit more
Yeah.
on the Moonlight Magic, I gave that example of just those 2 nights at Boardwalk already, going a long way towards the cost of my annual dues. The Moonlight Magic events are, Flounder, I'm glad you mentioned them. They're amazing, and it's just like an after hours event. There are special characters. It's very comparable to that, and those are typically around, I think around $150 per person for a ticket. And you can bring everyone who's staying in your room on your DVC points, or up to, I believe it's up to 5 total people. So yourself and 4 guests. So if you were to consider the dollar value of just that one night experience, and however many you are able to do of those, it really starts to add up quickly. Similarly, Bay Lake Tower, if you go up there, you'd have to spend a lot of money to eat at California Grill to get that same evening fireworks view that you can access at Bay Lake Tower as a member.
Yeah, really amazing deals that come with this. The one thing I'll add is the annual pass holder perk as well, where you can, as an out-of-state resident, get access to the Sorcerer Pass at Walt Disney World, which is a really great deal for my family. We can travel the week of Thanksgiving and the week of Christmas, but we traditionally don't, because we're usually home with family events. And so we don't really travel to Disney those 2 weeks. So we're just blocked out of those 2 weeks. But the cost is, it's over $400 less per person compared to the Incredipass. So when you add that up for like a family, if you have a family of 4 and you don't mind not having tickets those 2 weeks of the year, you'd save your family $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 on annual passes per year, with the option to get that Sorcerer Pass that you would otherwise need to be a Florida resident to get. So lots of really that to me also sold me on the value of this, is the savings, knowing that being DVC members, we can get the Sorcerer Pass, renew our pass every year, split our vacations into 2 week-long trips in a studio, and get a lot of bang for our buck with that, or just do still that one big vacation in a 1-bedroom villa. And the other thing I'll add, just because it's important, is that, Disney Vacation Club offers all this now. These are definitely subject to change, and Disney is very clear about that from the start. Like, they've always offered some sort of perks, but the perks have changed over time a little bit. I think at the very beginning, they offered free tickets with or like a free annual pass with DVC, like way back in the early 90s. And then of course that was subject to change. They took that little perk away, but they've added so much more in terms of these events and special cruises and so many other offerings that are great too. But yeah, to both of your points, like really worth looking into buying directly through Disney to officially have that blue card, officially be that Disney Vacation Club member, and to access all these wonderful perks that come with the membership. Let's pivot to talking about if we've sold you on this. There's a couple of other things to talk about after this, but I definitely want to talk a little bit about the process to buy Disney Vacation Club as a member, and maybe I'll start with my story first, just because it's pretty fresh in my head. But and I've done several tours, so there you have a few options if you are at a Disney destination, Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line. There are Disney Vacation Club centers that you can go, preview centers that you can go to actually start the process of becoming a Disney Vacation Club member. You can also do this from home. So we actually became members over the phone and online. That was how we signed all of our paperwork just last month. We were not at Walt Disney World. But the the last tour that we did take before that, we were on property. If you do the full tour, it's about 90 minutes. It can be a little bit longer or shorter, depending on how much you already know. And the guides are pretty upfront. So even for me, I had worked at Disney Vacation Club. I kind of went in knowing what I was looking for. And so they skipped the whole, the whole show element of it, didn't really walk us to the model rooms, didn't explain Disney Vacation Club from scratch. They just took us right into a private room, discussed the options with us, and helped us make a decision there. So the process is very, very straightforward. And the thing I love about buying through Disney Vacation Club is how low stress and low pressure the whole situation is. There are timeshare horror stories when it comes to the sales process, and Disney's Vacation Club sales guides are incredibly professional and low pressure when it comes to making this decision. Candidly, we did take we decided to do one of those, timeshare presentations because it came with like a free week at a resort, and we were just like, you know what, we'll just go in and we'll tell them we're not interested. That obviously is how most people think about these timeshare presentations. The only way we were actually able to get out of that room was Joanna had to actually cry. Like, she had to break down in tears in front of the salesperson to have them let us leave, but they would not let us leave that room. We were like, when I say bullied, pressure, they had like 3 people hovering over us with contracts in front of us to sign that paperwork. Like, I have never felt so sleazy about a sales process in my life. And it was a major hospitality company. This was not a rinky-dink timeshare in the middle of nowhere. Like, this was a major brand recognized, like, highly reputable hospitality company. I'll leave it at that. Disney Vacation Club, I've done several tours. My process, every time I went and said, it's not the right time, immediately was met with, no problem. If you change your mind, give me a call. Done. Here's your goodie bag. Have a nice day. Like, very, very, very friendly. And to make things even better, and I didn't share this in the beginning, but I said we were interested in Animal Kingdom Lodge in 2019, and we actually ended up signing the contracts, getting our member ID number, and then a few days later deciding that we had probably done this at the wrong time because we had other important things we wanted to do with our money in the short term. So we decided, you know what, this is really hard to do, but we have to back out of this. Disney puts very clearly in the contract, and I do not recommend going in with this, but with this mindset, but just to show how easy this process is and how friendly they are. They include in the contract, you have 10 days after you sign the first paperwork, or put down your initial deposit, I should say, 10 days to change your mind and back out. They have one sheet that's included in your contract that says, notice of cancellation with easy instructions. All I had to do was send an email to one email address, and very clearly, not any particular language, to say we're canceling our membership. I got an email back within that same day confirming it. I got my money refunded 100%, and no questions were asked. And that was it. Membership number was gone. Money was refunded. Done deal. So then when I went back, obviously years later, my guide, my DVC guide, who I'll give a shout out to, Elisa Ponte, she was, even like with that whole situation, very understanding, and still gave us, helped us get the best deal possible on our Disney Vacation Club membership to make it worth it for our family. And the timing was right, and she made the whole process incredibly easy for us. So the whole purchase process, if anyone's heard horror stories for timeshares, I just want to let you know that Disney is not one of those situations. You can go, just get information. If it's not right for you, you can leave. And if you tell them you don't want them to contact you, they'll put you on a do not call list. It's that easy. But Blander, I'm assuming you probably did not have as crazy of a buying process as mine, but what was the buying process like for you?
I remember ours was also very kind and so sweet. I think I have a different guide now, but the gentleman's name was Fernando Molina. So if he's listening, also shout out to him. But he was really wonderful. And, we had done our research as well. And we were considerably younger. Back 2007 seems like a lifetime ago. But going in and asking the right questions and we actually went in the first time we were unsure. And before we left, he gave us fast passes. We were at Disneyland for ours, and he gave us fast passes to use just because we had showed up to hear the presentation and, to leave with a gift, even though I didn't actually give them anything that stuck with me for a while because they had no need to do that at all, but did it just, because it's Disney and the guest service is, so well known. And we eventually did end up buying and, but that process, like I was mentioning with you, Matthew, was so seamless. They almost acted like it felt like a friend, or the guide was a friend that was already in the club, and they were trying to kind of see if you were interested, but there was no pressured feeling or situation that came from it at all. It was, even when I first walked in, I remember they, offered us water and, yeah, take a seat right here. And, they brought over all of the stuff they kind of very clearly laid it out. And they didn't push any narratives, even after we decided we wanted to, and we were still trying to figure out the points that we wanted. No one tried to make me get any more than I thought I needed. They did a very good job of breaking down what each amount would give me, and never did they try to push a narrative that you're probably going to need more for this or this or this. Anytime that we talked about a potential point value that interested us, they actually talked about all the great stuff we would get to do with that amount, that point value. So saying, if you're getting 100 or 150, you'll be able to do this, this, and this, or not you're only getting 150. You can only do this and this and this. They didn't bring that up at all, because obviously there is limitations for the amount of points that you decide to purchase, but he never brought that up. Because there are some people that probably have enough points to stay in, the biggest room during New Year's or Christmas all the time. But he never said, just so you know, you're not gonna be able to do that. It never felt that way. I felt leaving after I purchased that I got exactly what I wanted, and that he helped me get exactly what I want. And I think that was probably the best aspect of it. There was no remorse and I should have bought more. And of course, I've gone back and got more since then, but I've never felt that Disney was begging me or pressuring me into that position.
Yeah, it's very refreshing to have that. And I think, people should know the reason why they are like that is not just because of Disney's reputation, which is extremely important to uphold, but also because they don't need to pressure you, because they have so many people who are happy to become Disney Vacation Club members, and a product that really speaks for itself in terms of value that you get out of it. So there's no need to go for high pressure sales tactics, because even candidly, the week after we purchased was not a week, 2 or 3 weeks after we had purchased was when the Villas at Disneyland Hotel went on sale, and it became very challenging to get in contact with Elise directly, because she had just been swarmed and overwhelmed, and she apologized profusely to me every time, getting back, she'd email me that night and say so sorry, can I call you in the morning, or can we handle this over email? But she was overwhelmed with calls about that resort. So they have people lining up ready to become members. They don't need to pressure any individual family to make a decision that's not going to be right for them. So that is always really wonderful. And what I also really love is that, it takes about a month when you buy through Disney directly to officially close, because it is technically a real estate interest piece of property. So there's legalities that go into that, and it's not just you buy a park ticket and that's your ticket. It takes about a month to officially get that title and for the whole process to go through the motion. But that doesn't matter. Literally, the moment you don't even have to sign paperwork yet, the moment you give them that initial deposit, whether it's the 10% down, or even if you're paying in cash, you can still decide. You have a month to pay it off with cash. So you can just put down initially that initial 10% deposit. Within, I think it was an hour later, I got my membership number, and was able to immediately access all the perks. In fact, the next day, I got Joanna her sorcerer pass. We hadn't even signed a contract yet. So, I have to go and validate that I'm a Disney Vacation Club member, but they don't make you jump through hoops to wait to like officially pay this off to become a member right from day one. You put down that 10% deposit, you're a member. Like that's it. So it's great that they immediately throw you in. You can access your Disney Vacation Club portal. You can play around with it, and they kind of peel back the curtain because they know that when people start seeing this, even from the first day, knowing that they have 10 days to back out if they want to, that once you actually see your membership perks and the dashboard and everything else, that you're not backing out, that this is a pretty amazing product. Anything else we want to talk about when it comes to the buying process? I feel like there's, some specifics that I'd probably advise going directly to your Disney Vacation Club sales guide directly, or getting a Disney Vacation Club sales guide and talking through the purchase process. There's documents to sign. There's a whole number of things that you have to do, but it's otherwise pretty simple, I find, to officially become a member.
Yeah, you could that process of me just adding on a little bit at the Disney Hotel, I was in there and out in maybe 45 minutes, which is a scary, I jokingly say a very scary way to like give someone money, but it's that seamless and they are that helpful to where, despite the fact that you're signing so many different things, they make the process so simple. You don't feel like you have to jump through hoops. Having someone there to kind of walk you through the process and let you know, and they obviously give you their card, an email address, phone number if you have any questions, and reach out. And that I think was, how quickly you can, give the money and get more points is fascinating. And I don't regret it at all, and I haven't had up to this day that I did it. And I'm always happy that they are never. They're never unreachable in the sense that I just obviously being busy with new properties. It always feels like they are, if you have questions, they are around to answer them.
Yeah. And honestly, like there was a time where I needed to get in touch with somebody in the last month. And again, like Elise was overwhelmed, understandably. So I just reached out to member services directly, and they answered my call within 2 minutes, and they answered my question, and that was it. It was as simple as that. The other nice thing is that after, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after we had started the process, I actually got a call from the quality assurance team, and they just reached out to see if I had any questions about membership. And I had a couple. I just asked those questions. He was very nice. He just, addressed my questions right there. So they're just really helpful from beginning to end. And the other thing with the buying process, real quick, that I should add, is that they work hard to actually get the price down for you. Like there's no negotiating with Disney. There might be with other smaller timeshare companies, but there's no negotiating with Disney. But they do have incentives to purchase at different point values, or at, like if you get referred by a member and go through fill out a form, you get like a small little discount that you get on your membership. But Elise asked me, she said, so first of all, we know you get the spring discount that they had, the spring incentive. So this is how much it comes out to. She said, are you a Disney Visa card holder? I said, yes, I am. She's like, well, the point value you're looking at, there's this incentive too. So we'll add that on for you. Are you going to Walt Disney World in the next few months? I said, yes, we are. Great. Can you give me the reservation number? Boom. Okay. Here's another discount for you. Like just stack them on as much as possible to help me get that price down. And then right now they are offering, and this has changed over time, but they are also offering, oh my goodness, Magical Beginnings. I couldn't think of the name. Magical Beginnings. So to help members in the beginning, because they know the purchase price can sometimes be a lot for some people. It's maybe a little bit more than they're willing to stretch. Disney will offer to buy back, if you're willing to forfeit your points for just the first year, they'll buy them back for you. And they had a deal they were running right now that it was $22 a point that they bought it back. So it's a pretty big savings on that initial purchase. And you're just getting rid of, again, like 1 year's worth of points to do that. I think it was a special spring offer for that Magical Beginnings. That might not be $22 a point if you call them today when you're listening to this, but you can always ask about Magical Beginnings if you want to. They either offer it as a cash rebate, so you can pay for the membership and they can send you a check, or they can just cut it from your total purchase price, and they're happy to do it either way. And then if you're not a Disney Visa card holder and you are looking to become a Disney Vacation Club member, I strongly advise you consider it, for a couple of reasons. First, you can pay for Disney Vacation Club with a Disney Visa. So that's kind of how we paid off our Disney Vacation Club, was not through checks or, we just called and, we put down a certain amount on our credit card. If you finance, it's the same thing. You can pay it off with your credit card. And in your annual dues, you could put on a credit card. And then the Disney Premier Visa, which is the one that we have, it's a $49 annual fee, but you get 2% back on all Disney purchases, which include Disney Vacation Club. So actually buying or financing or paying for Disney Vacation Club is considered for that 2% back. Annual dues, 2% back. Everything that basically your Disney Visa annual fee is probably going to break even with your Disney Vacation Club membership. So it's worth looking into as well. Plus any perks they might be running through the Disney Visa card for buying DVC. One other thing with regards to purchasing, we've talked about how many points people should consider. It really is dependent upon your family, and obviously something you should talk to Disney directly about, and do a lot of homework, talk to members. I talk to a lot of members to get an idea of how many points we should consider buying. Is buying through the resale market. So we've talked about this, or we've teased this up, that there is a resale market for Disney Vacation Club. Brooke, do you want to talk a little bit about, because I know you've purchased, at least you said you purchased through the resale markets, your Saratoga Springs contract. So what are some of the differences with that?
Well, I wouldn't even really discuss that one because it has the policy has completely changed since that time. That contract is essentially grandfathered into most of the same perks that the blue card members, there aren't physical blue cards anymore, but as a member, you will often hear people talk about blue cards because you used to get a blue Disney Vacation Club card, and that's what you would use to show your discounts. And that also, if you had a blue card, you were eligible for all of the membership extras. So current restrictions are pretty, they're very tight. So basically, if you purchase a resale contract at one of the original 14 Disney Vacation Club properties, so that is everything except Riviera and the villas at Disneyland Hotel. So if you purchase resale at any of those original 14, you can only use your points at those 14 resorts. So that excludes Riviera and the Disneyland Hotel. You can't ever stay there using your points. And there's still a lot to be said about the value of that. You still have a lot of options, a lot of flexibility. You don't get those discounts, you don't get those perks. And then resale owners who purchase at Riviera and at the villas at Disneyland Hotel, if you buy resale at either of those, you can only use those points at that resort. So that means, again, if you book it 11 months, then you're probably okay. And you just want to stay at that resort, you're probably okay. But relying on, having if you wanted to have any sort of spontaneity, you're probably in trouble doing that. So there's a lot of savings to be had buying resale, but there are a lot of caveats right now. And I think, Disney could continue to, I suppose whatever the policy is when you purchase, that's kind of, you're locked into that. But again, as we mentioned, things can always change. So when you listen to this podcast, they could actually tighten restrictions even more on resale contracts future.
Yeah, they can. The main advantage, or the reason that people do, I know, go through resale, if that's their only contract, is to save money. Because obviously the resale contracts, because of those stipulations, are going to go for less than if you buy directly through Disney. I think one thing that often confuses people is that Disney lists, and if you talk to them directly, they give you those options of what's on the website. Riviera Resorts, which right now, Riviera Resort, Aulani, Grand Floridian, and soon to be May 31st, villas at Disneyland Hotel. You technically can buy an older property directly through Disney, and buy that 150 point minimum. So you can ask about Boardwalk. You don't have to just go through the resale market to get that Boardwalk contract. The one thing I will say is that generally the properties that are more in demand and have smaller supply, so Boardwalk would be a great example, that is going to run for more, most likely, I have to actually look, but I'm pretty confident that Boardwalk, if you go directly through Disney, will cost even more than the newer properties because of the limited supply that's available from buying back points from members, and the fact that it is such a high demand property. So if you really want Boardwalk and don't mind not having the perks that come with it and some of the stipulations, then that's a case where resale market might be the decision for you. But I can tell you anecdotally, because Elise did share this with me, that we got Grand Floridian not including the discounts that we got. So the retail cost of Grand Floridian when we purchased was $217 a point. If this was from them adding on that second building, refurbishing a building to be added DVC property rooms on the existing 2014 original condo association contract. If we had purchased in between, it would have been over $250 a point to go directly through Disney because of the limited supply that they had and how in demand Grand Floridian was. So because they went back on sale, we actually got an exceptional deal, I think, on buying Grand Floridian than if we had decided to buy it just a few years before. But yeah, through the resale market, it's there are some of those stipulations and limitations. And so if you are on the fence about it, if you can swing doing a direct contract, I would generally advise doing that. But I know both of you have added on points. And so even now, if I were to add on points at an older property through the resale market, I would still be considered a Disney Vacation Club member. Just that new contract I purchased would have those stipulations. So that set of points, if I bought at Boardwalk, I could only use at the original 14. I couldn't use that set of points at Riviera, but I could use my direct Disney points that I had purchased at Grand Floridian at Riviera. Philander, anything you would add about the resale market and resale contracts?
Yeah, I think it's Brooke did a great job of mentioning those like specifics. So really it's for people that just really look into those extras that Disney gives. Saving money is one thing, of course, but think about the, we mentioned the Moonlight Magic and you mentioned the annual pass. Like really think about all those things, because most of us that are coming to use these points, like we would theoretically all use these extra perks. It's not necessarily just about staying on property. That is one thing, but you're staying on property to go to the parks. You're going to be eating there. You theoretically going to be purchasing merchandise. You may be traveling when there is a Moonlight Magic party. Are you using tickets or the annual passes that could come through, Vacation Club? Like there's so much more. So saving money, yes, is one thing, but to really make an educated decision based off of what Disney offers, those lounges are fantastic and add more value to your membership. So I definitely did not want to, I didn't even know about the resale market when I first bought in, but even so, I definitely believe I made the correct decision in joining it with Disney first. And adding on is one thing, but even if you do add on, just be very hyper aware of the restrictions that just come with the points. You'll still get all of those great perks because you're as Brooke said, a card carrying member or a blue card member. You'll still have those, but to just really do your research for resale, because you're saving more but getting less, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the reason the resale market exists, one quick little thing, a topic of point of conversation I want to have is about kind of an exit strategy, because this, I don't think you should go into Disney Vacation Club looking to have an exit strategy. But to be fair, the contracts at Riviera, for instance, those those expire in 2070. So if you become a member at Disney Vacation Club, you're going to have Disney Vacation Club membership until the year 2070 at Riviera. So for a lot of people, that's a long time. That's, you're almost 50 years. If you had purchased in the beginning, it's basically 50 years of membership. And maybe you see the value for the next 20 years with your kids, but then after that, like, you don't plan to go to Disney. Like, you just go to Disney for your kids. I don't think there's anyone listening to the show, but you could be, you could just be going for your kids, or, in my case, it wasn't so much about not planning to go to Disney, because that's never going to be a thing. But, what if that extreme situation happens where we we come into like serious financial turmoil for one reason or another, and now we're sitting on a contract that, the great thing about it is it guarantees Disney vacations for us, but we still have those annual dues and the additional expenses that come with the Disney vacation. So long story short, if someone 15 years down the line, 10 years down the line decides that Disney Vacation Club is no longer viable for them, or their kids graduated from college, they're not taking family vacations anymore, and they don't personally want to go to Disney anymore, then what are some of the what can you do with your membership at that point?
So there's a very active point rental market. So in the short term, if you are, and we did talk about the poor value of using your points on things besides staying in Disney Vacation Club villas, like using them to book a cruise or to stay in a different type of hotel room, or you can even use the interval exchange program and stay, at a resort anywhere. Many resorts around the world. But typically you'll get better value by renting your points out. So essentially someone would use your point. There are a lot of third-party companies that will facilitate this process and contracts and everything. And someone essentially will pay you a certain dollar value per point to use your points. Either you'll book a stay for them, you'll have a stay that you've booked and that you're renting out, or they'll have an ideal stay that they're looking for. These companies facilitate that. But in the short term, if you didn't want to use your points, you can typically rent them, and for much more than the cost of your dues. I think it's often around $16, $17, $18, $19, $20 a point. Sometimes even more depending on where it is. Like Grand Californian is, that's a hot point rental market. So that is an easy way to recoup some of your money in the short term. And then in the long term, obviously, you can resell your contract, and that market really ebbs and flows a lot. The resale contracts were really expensive, I think like about a year ago, and recently they've been very inexpensive. So it kind of just comes and goes. So using that point rental opportunity as a way to manage it in the short term, and see if you want to ride out your however you're feeling on it, that's always an option.
Yeah, it's definitely that's the thing I found great about this, is that you're technically sitting on an asset at the end of the day. That asset is not necessarily going to hold its value over those years, but there are cases where I'm pretty confident that anyone who purchased at Old Key West, if they decided to sell their contract within the last 5 years, maybe at least broke even on their contract from their initial purchase, just because Old Key West is also a property that, even being having fewer use years left, still an in-demand property. But knowing that there's a market for resale contracts makes the purchase a little bit less risky. And that's why I also like to equate it to purchasing a car, because when you purchase a car, the moment you drive it off the lot, it depreciates its value significantly, and it continues to depreciate over time. Disney Vacation Club is not that same type of asset. It might depreciate over time, but a much slower pace. There is some risk that it could go one way or another, but it's an asset that tends to hold its value. So again, I wouldn't go into this with the mindset of this being an investment. It's very much not. There are much, 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 much better ways to invest your money from a financial perspective. But from a purchase perspective, it is a pretty darn good purchase that you can make for your family and a great investment for your family. Investment in your family vacations, family memories, and knowing that you'll be able to use your points and go to Disney year after year and spend time building memories together. And this kind of leads me into, go ahead, Brooke. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I would also say that renting points can be a great way to test the waters too on DVC. I need more points than I have. And so I have frequently had to supplement my year of stays with rental points. And it is always, even when you're renting at, $19 a point, you are still spending a lot less than if you were to book that room direct through Disney. So it's a great way to try out staying in the villas and to still save some money.
Members passing on savings to others is always great. That's a really great tip. And I often hear that too. We actually did not do that. But it's a great piece of advice. And I know a lot of people do that when they're considering buying, is just renting, seeing basically the value you're getting for the membership, and then making the decision at that point if it's right for you or not. So that kind of leads me into some closing questions. This hour and a half of us discussing this, hour 45 minutes of us discussing this, is not going to be and should not be your only source of information. So I want to make that very clear. If this is your first foray into learning about Disney Vacation Club, please do not make a decision based off of this podcast episode. Not because Brooke and Philander, didn't do an amazing job. They did, of helping us to figure out if this is the right call or not, but because this is such a, it is still a major purchase. So it's something that I encourage you to please do your homework, do your research, think about it, run through the numbers yourself. Don't take my numbers earlier for to be set in stone. That was an example that I had used, just looking at the math myself. But if you are thinking about it now, I would encourage you to at least start the process with Disney Vacation Club to get more information, and to reach out to a guide. You could go directly through Disney Vacation Club directly to schedule a time to have a guide call you. You can book that appointment online and schedule a very specific time. You can also reach out to me, or Brooke or Philander. I'm sure I'd definitely be happy to refer somebody to my guide, if they have any questions. But if you have questions just in general, feel free to reach out to the three of us. But I do want to, kind of close things out by reflecting on your membership. This is obviously very new for me, but Philander, I think you've had your membership the longest. You said 2007. So if you could go back in time I have two questions for you. If you could go back in time to 2007, right before you became a member, what would you say to yourself?
Gosh, I feel like I would have said buy more then, only because the perks and things have changed over time, which is fine. They've always been very good about offering incentives, which is great. But as things, just change and adjust as the market changes and things like that. I remember, and obviously they do not do this now, when we bought our first initial contract, I got a 3-day cruise out of that, which I mean, obviously that's fantastic, to get a cruise. And I remember when I bought into Grand Californian, they gave us this really amazing, beautiful artwork that was framed of a concept drawing for the hotel, which is awesome. And not that I'm upset that I've added on over time, but just knowing just how, things change, or there's obviously slight inflation with going stuff, I probably would have bought more, especially knowing what I ended up having now. It's harder to say. I think a lot of times, because I was very young, not that I'm old now, but I was very young when I purchased. But a lot of times I hear from members that have only added on the last 2 years, 3 years or so that I've met, that they wish they had done it back when I did it, because, they were, I think, realizing all of those trips that they made over the years that they were just, paying cash for or whatnot, that they could have had for Disney Vacation Club, and they just didn't know about it, or potentially were frightened off because, it has that timeshare kind of feel to it, but it's not really one. And they just didn't want to have to deal with it or didn't feel like they would get any serious value on it. But I think for me, it was just buying more. I have definitely not regretted it at all in the slightest. And I think if you're someone who makes those trips, either like you both said, annually or biannually, or at the very minimum, 2 times a year, it's something that you'll get a lot of value out of. I've truly not regretted it at all. The places that I've been able to stay. My wife and I had a joke when we first started staying in those rooms to look up the cash value of the room that we were staying in for that time period, just to really see, because I think you're getting value, but then when you look at this stay during spring break would have cost me in cash $8,000 in the type of room I have, the hotel that I'm staying at, and the time of year, you really understand that. And then of course, looking to the memories I've made, I can only imagine, the memories that Brooke has made with her family, and I'm sure she'll talk about those, but the stuff I've done with family and friends. And, I remember taking my daughter on her first trip out there, and we stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge and had a Savannah view, and the thrill that meant to her to see animals every morning, looking out. And those are like the things you just never forget. And that has truly made me feel and see the value, even taking the money perspective out of it, just the memories, all the photos and videos I have of all these great trips. And, we stayed in Granville at Animal Kingdom once that has a pool table in it. And we played pool one night, a bunch of us, and had a bunch of laughs and food and drinks. And like those things that you just can't really attach money to. And yes, of course, finances are involved in all of this, but what you're getting out of in the long term is worth every penny.
Really great answer. It definitely is one of the most emotional purchases you'll ever make, as a Disney fan, at least. Brooke, I'll throw the same question over to you. If you could talk to yourself right before you became members at Boardwalk, what advice would you offer? What would you say to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, same answer. Basically, to start with, I wish that we had bought more points, particularly because we added on just, a year and a half later. And it would have been, I wish that all of those points we had just done at Boardwalk initially. And I would have loved if we bought even more. And so, yeah, if you're, I definitely think if your advice about buy more than you think you need is definitely wise if you can swing it. But then honestly, I love the memory part. Welcome home is what was what they'll say to you at every turn throughout your membership. And the Boardwalk it was always, I'm an Epcot kid. I always, we wanted it because of being able to walk to that back entrance of Epcot. And I didn't even know when we bought Boardwalk that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge would be built, just the same walking distance from our home resort. And we love Star Wars more than anything my kids do. It's like it's our most important memory to us. And so now that we have that there, it was like it was always meant to be. And my kids, they love their home the most. They love the other resorts, but Boardwalk is their home. Boardwalk is being refurbished. And my kids, I have videos from babies all the way till now of them running down these halls with this Ferris wheel carpet pattern down the Boardwalk hallways. And I was talking about the refurbishment, and my son, he said, "Is the carpet going to go away? Is there going to be new carpet?" And he actually burst into tears. And I said, "But I'm sure it'll be beautiful new carpet, and we'll have a whole new set of memories." But we really are so attached to these, to this place. And it really does become a second home. It makes you feel so comfortable when you're used to it. And yeah, I would never change a thing. Best decision we made for sure.
And that kind of this is a great answer. And that kind of turns us into my last question, which is speaking to the listeners who are on the fence. If you're listening to this podcast, you had to at least be interested in or curious about Disney Vacation Club. So we'll reverse the order, and I'll go to Brooke first. Speaking to someone who's listening, who is a Disney fan on the fence about Disney Vacation Club, what would you say to them?
It's good to be thoughtful about this. Certainly. I think you've done a really nice job of saying, don't base that. You can't base it on emotions at the end of the day. There is a big emotional payout on this, but at the end of the day, it is an important financial decision. The one thing I just thought of that we hadn't mentioned that I want to point out too is taking a close look at these all of these different resorts many of them have different end dates for the contract. So our
That's right.
boardwalk contract ends in 2042, whereas some of them do go until 2070. So when you price out the cost of dues over the duration of that contract, for example, there are different contracts that could offer you a different end date, and that could be a reason for you to go to Disney and say, hey, I actually would be interested in not one of these three that are publicly available, but a resort like Boardwalk or somewhere that does have a contract that ends sooner. So I would say for Disney fans, Disney lovers like us, and people who go regularly and want it to be a part of their families, the fabric of their families, lives and annual vacations, there's a good chance there's almost a 100% chance you won't regret the purchase. But I do think it's really smart to think really thoroughly about it working financially for your family.
For sure. Really great advice. And thank you for bringing it up at the end here. That is also very important. And if you're ever curious, you could always ask your Disney Vacation Club sales guide. They'll be transparent and tell you what the end dates are for these contracts as well. It's generally 50 years from when that resort first went on sale. So you can sort of do some rough math as well if you go back and look those up, but really important to remember. Philander, what would you say to listeners who are considering membership?
Like you both so eloquently put, be thoughtful about it. Obviously, finances are finances and what you can manage to swing. But if you're already someone who is making those trips every year, other year, I usually say you're like 35, 40% there at that point. And I would suggest you go and talk to a vacation club guide, whether it be on your trip, because they have those the kiosks there where they could direct you to someone, and it takes a little bit out of your time to go and speak with someone. But if you're someone who's making those trips, you got your foot in the door. You got your toe in the pond. You're like right there. So let them break it down for you and really find out if it makes sense. Because I think we're all spending the money or the finances taking these trips. And as an example, the three of us are just now allocating them into a different way of doing it is all. And for all as the listener, it's something you will also theoretically wish you had done sooner when you find out the facts about it. It's definitely not for everybody, of course. But again, if you're that person that's making those trips, it's time to at least have someone explain it to you, that can crunch the numbers. They'll give you the right amount of paperwork and stuff and things you can look over and decide it as a family. And maybe it takes you a year to decide. Maybe it takes you 6 months, 4 years, who knows? But the emotional payback is fantastic. Not that, of course, people who are, visiting without Disney Vacation Club are not making memories as good as ours. That's definitely not the case. But this will definitely add savings to something you already love doing as it is. So it's definitely worth that initial time. And as we mentioned before, they will certainly not pressure you into it. They're quite kind about it and are very gentle at breaking down what is expected financially of a membership, and or even like Brooke mentioned, rent, maybe if you're making that trip, maybe rent and do a 1-bedroom villa so that you can see what it's like to have those specific style rooms. Because I know that was a huge thing for my wife, getting to having the living room space, the kitchen area, and that it felt like something more, than just like a potential standard hotel room that has the 2 beds in it. You felt like you were getting more out of it. So maybe it's changing it up on your next trip and doing a rental process, or the next time you're at Walt Disney World or Disneyland in California, stopping by one of those kiosks to chat. The fact that it's non-pressure, you don't necessarily have to sit there for 2 hours or whatnot, helps. But surely at least ask questions, get someone that can help explain it to you on a different level so that you make the correct decision.
Excellent advice as well. I will you both put in the emotional side of this too, which is really important. The other thing I'll add is, in addition to reaching out to a Disney Vacation Club sales guide, I think I mentioned this before, but worth reiterating, reach out to members and ask them all the hard questions. There are some important things that I know some members wish they would have done differently if they had purchased. Not that they regret their membership, but they just would have, really important thing for me, for instance, was I wanted a very specific use year, which is an advanced strategy beyond the scope of this episode, but I wanted a specific use year, and I had to talk to other members to figure out what the right use year was. And then I communicated that with Elise. And although it was not officially like what Disney was offering, they worked some magic, moved some barriers, and helped make that my use year, because that really was contingent upon becoming members or not, was getting that for the ease of being able to bank and borrow points is really where that comes into the picture. But ask all the tough questions, reach out to members. There are plenty of Disney Vacation Club member communities and forums online. So join those Facebook groups, read through those threads online. I mean, really do your homework. And talk to real members to help make the right decision for your family as well. And that includes the three of us. So speaking of which, I want to make sure people know where to go to reach out to you. Hopefully you don't get flooded with DVC questions, but Philander, where could people go to reach out to you?
Definitely my Instagram is the easiest, which is my name and then the letter C at 85. I definitely have no problems helping someone make that decision. I know, as a member for so long, what it could potentially mean for someone to, hear from, you, Matthew, or Brooke or myself, and that helps them kind of, get there to that space. And, I'd be quite happy for them or even if they just, ask the right questions, and then maybe it's not for them, getting the chance to assist someone in, finding out if it's correct for them is definitely worth my time. And I have no issues, getting those hard questions about if it's right for you. So please feel free to reach out. Even if I don't get to you immediately, definitely would love to help.
Absolutely. Brooke, how about you?
Yep, same for me. You can get me. I'm most active on Instagram at Brooke G McDonald. That's Brooke with an E. And I'm also on Twitter, but more, just sharing news. Same, Brooke G McDonald. And yeah, I've been answering questions for years now about DVC, since we talk about it so regularly on my Instagram as well. I really regularly post room tours of different Disney Vacation Club villas, more studios than the larger ones, because that's where we typically stay, but there are a decent amount of the larger 1 and 2 bedroom villas and bungalows and all that kind of fun stuff on there as well, in my reels. So that's a good place to check out some room tours.
Well, thank you both. People are welcome to reach out to me as well. Of course, you all know where to go, but I'll include links to Brooke and Philander's accounts in the description of this episode. But Brooke, Philander, thank you so much for taking 2 hours of your time to talk about just the basics of Disney Vacation Club. But I really appreciate it, and look forward to having you back on the show soon.
Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Yes. Always fun. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Imagination Central. I really do hope you enjoyed this 2-part discussion about Disney Vacation Club membership, and I hope that it helped to inform you a little bit more about some of the complexities and intricacies of Disney Vacation Club membership and some of the reasons why the three of us, at least, Brooke, Philander, and myself, really value being Disney Vacation Club members. If you have any other questions, as the three of us mentioned, please feel free to reach out to any of us. You can also reach out to any member in your community who you know and trust. I would encourage you to reach out to members you know and trust to learn a little bit more, to ask some of those tough questions in helping you to decide if Disney Vacation Club is right for you. And as I mentioned, if you would like to speak to a Disney Vacation Club sales guide, if you would like me to refer you to my sales guide, or you can also reach out to Brooke or Philander, we are happy to do so. No strings attached here, just wants to offer whatever support I can in helping you to make the best decision possible for your family. And I want to give a very special thank you to Brooke and Philander for coming onto the show and sharing so much information and so many great insights and personal stories about their Disney Vacation Club membership. But I, of course, want to turn this conversation over to you, the listener, and ask what other questions you have about Disney Vacation Club membership. And if you're currently a Disney Vacation Club member, I would love to hear what advice you would offer to anyone who is thinking about becoming a Disney Vacation Club member. You can send your answers and join the conversation by finding Imagination Skyway on your favorite social media channels. You'll find this question posed in a number of different places, including our Instagram page and our Facebook group. You can get links to both of those places over at imaginationskyway.com. Probably the two best places to join our community, especially our Facebook group, if you want to chat with other members of this listener community as well. But even if you're listening to the show months or years down the line, you could always tag me in a post or go into our Facebook group and resurface this question and continue that conversation there. If you don't already subscribe to the show, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button no matter which podcast app you're listening to so you never miss an episode of the show. And better yet, if you have a moment to leave a rating or a review in that podcast app, it goes a long way to help this community out, especially those of you listening in Apple Podcasts or in Spotify. If you found these episodes to be helpful, if you enjoy the show, leaving a rating and a review can really help this community out quite a bit. And if you would like to take your love of Imagination Skyway to the next level and help support the show, keep the lights on for this podcast, definitely consider joining our Patreon group. This show would not be possible without our Patreon members, so I always want to thank our Patreon members. You can learn more about membership by going to imaginationskyway.com/community and learn what perks and benefits and extra content are currently available with membership. As always, there are lots of different perks you can unlock, things like bonus podcast episodes, streamable binaural audio that I've recorded from the parks that you can enjoy on the go, as well as access to a private Facebook community, events, and so much more. Again, you can learn more about that at imaginationskyway.com/community because the terms and conditions are subject to change depending on when you are listening to the show. And if you're ready to go ahead and book a trip to Walt Disney World or to Disneyland or Disney Cruise Line or any other Disney destination, or if you just want to sort of price it out and plan it out, figure out when the best time to go might be, perhaps even if you want to try some of these Disney Vacation Club studios or villas, definitely consider reaching out to our travel partner, Magical Park Vacations. As with most travel agencies, this is a complimentary service that is offered to you. But this team is really an amazing team of travel agents that know Disney extremely well and are an incredible team at helping to plan out and book your Disney vacation and help discuss the options that are available to you. You can reach out to them over at magicalparkvacations.com or find them on social media at Magical Park Vacations. And you might want to consider working with their sister company, the Park Planners, over at the Park Planners on social media and online. But they are a concierge planning service that do so much more than just plan and book your Disney vacation, but also help create a day-by-day itinerary, game day plan for you and your family that's personalized, customized for your family, because they take the time to learn what your family is most interested in, what you are hoping to accomplish on your Disney vacation, and come up with an itinerary that is personalized for your family. They've created personal itineraries for my family in the past and do really an amazing job, especially if I'm traveling with extra people that I don't normally travel with, or if I'm just looking to try things a little bit differently than I've done in the past. They offer such great support and planning for your Disney vacation. Again, you can learn more about them at the Park Planners on social media and online. Last but not least, I want to encourage you, as I always do, to go after those hopes, dreams, goals, whatever they might be. If your dream is becoming a Disney Vacation Club member, if there's anything I could do to help you to learn a little bit more in making that decision, or anything else I can offer for you, or Brooke or Philander can offer for you, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, I can refer you to my Disney Vacation Club sales guide. I'm happy to do so. Elise is wonderful. And Elise, if you're listening, thank you so much for everything you have done for my family and helping us to become Disney Vacation Club members. But whatever it is you are dreaming of accomplishing, go after those dreams today. Thank you so much for riding aboard Imagination Skyway. And remember, if we can dream it, we can do it.
When you see a shooting star, the adventure inside your heart is pulling you close to where the future starts.
The magic that's in your eyes, traditions we build for life.
Year after year, the memories fill the sky. Everybody, welcome home to your home away from home, where magic never ends, with family and friends, making memories so strong. We believe in somewhere new, a place where all your dreams come true. Together we can grow, let the whole world know where we are is right, right where we belong. Unforgettable days and nights, it's something you can't describe.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Contact Magical Park Vacations to book your next Disney cruise today. Visit magicalparkvacations.com.